Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heartlight Vedic Astrology. In today's talk, I was going to discuss Bharani Nakshatra. Nakshatras are also called lunar mansions, okay, and this is a concept in Vedic astrology or Jyotish, so ancient Indian astrology that's more than 5,000 years old. You can think of Bharani Nakshatra because as we're essentially talking about star astrology in Vedic astrology, is the life cycle star. So let's take a look. Okay, so again, if you're not familiar with nakshatras, I'm just going to say a few words before we get into Bharani specifically. But again, nakshatras are also called lunar mansions, and this is the part of Vedic astrology which is considered to be star astrology. There are about 27 nakshatras. There's an extra one, but mostly we work with 27 of them. And again, this is based on sidereal stars, so meaning the stars that you can actually see in the sky with your eyes, because this is again, ancient Indian astrology, more than 5,000 years old before any, serious technology was developed. Also, nakshatras are considered to be the oldest part of Jyotish, Vedic astrology, and they are first discussed in the Rig Veda, which is one of the four oldest, kind of sacred texts in the culture. So the thing with the nakshatras is every night the moon passes through a different nakshatra, and so after 27, transits here, we essentially get a lunar month. And each of these nakshatras has a different energy and deities and things like that associated with it. Okay. Nakshatras are actually near and dear to my heart because actually, when I first started learning Vedic astrology, this was the first part of Vedic astrology that I learned. Actually, was the nakshatras. So, yeah, a little bit nostalgic for me. Anyway, other videos and things to support you in your learning of nakshatras. I do have an introduction to nakshatras video. I would check that out if you're totally new to nakshatras. Also, I have a nakshatras playlist where all the videos in any way related to nakshatras are listed there. Also, I've recently organized my videos into courses, some courses, and one of the courses is Symbolism of Nakshatras. So again, this is the second nakshatra out of the series, so this is a growing course. But again, if you're looking to learn in a systemic way, if that helps you learn things, um, kind of in a more organized, lay these concepts down in a more organized way in your head, you might check out my courses. There are other ones too, like the houses or bhavas and the constellations or Rashis and the planets and grahas. So again, I just recently organized some of the videos into courses so that they're easy to find because I've made so many videos at this point that I was referring people to my playlist before, and now I think the playlists are kind of getting longer. So it's not as easy to find stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I would check those out. And then in general, if you're looking to learn Vedic astrology generally beyond nakshatras, I would check out my teaching concepts playlist. All right. Okay, so let's get into Bharani now. So, what's the meaning of Bharani? Well, there's a couple definitions that I've seen associated with Bharani. One is bearing children. Okay, that literally almost sounds like Bharani, bearing children. But also labor pains. Okay, and so actually those two even concepts are part of the energy of Bharani. You might sort of think of Bharani as a dual nakshatra because there is it considers the kind of cycle of life. Okay, so birth and death, joy and pain, uh, blessings and cost, that sort of thing. Yeah. So this is number two, the second nakshatra of the series, various nakshatras. The other thing is that a Bharani nakshatra coincides with the zodiac degrees of Aries or Mesha in Sanskrit, 13 degrees 21 minutes to 26 degrees 40 minutes. Okay. And I actually have a symbolism video on Aries if you want to check that out. Because again, in Aries, there's going to be 2 3/4 of a nakshatra. And the nakshatras give a more specific energy within Aries. Okay. So not all Aries rising people, for example, will have the same sort of energy. Okay. Also, the star or Tara associated with Bharani is called the dim triangle, which includes 41, 39, and 25 Arietis. I'm not much of an astronomer, so that doesn't mean a whole lot to me, but it might to you. And the symbol for Bharani is a womb or the vulva. Okay. So very literally like childbirth, you know. And that's the thing though, right? Is that a lot of times we talk about childbirth and especially in, you know, general culture and society, it's like, oh, that's like the greatest blessing, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it's messy, right? And it's painful. And, you know, carrying a child, delivering a child, you know, there can be, you know, risks with that and, you know, pain and trauma. You know, it's not all like, you know, the whole thing is as much as we like to mostly talk about it, I think, in general conversations as like this great blessing. And it is. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, the reality of it is not always so pleasant, right? I mean, it's not always just an easy breezy time. So, the deity associated with Bharani is Yama, who's the considered to be the god of death. So again, life cycles. And Yama was discussed in a couple of Shastra or classical texts, the Mahabharata and Padma Purana. And in there were different stories in these two texts about how Yama, the god of death, either took a break or actually died himself. And when he either took a break or died himself, then the world became very unbalanced. And so everybody was sort of scrambling to rebalance the world. Okay. So again, it's like you need both here. It's the yin yang, you know, the you know, kind of like a lot of times during eclipses, like you'll see maybe older generations, people in the older generation passing away, but almost like within a week or two or month, very closely associated with that is like maybe a grandchild's born into the family. So again, there's a cycle of life. The ruling planet or graha for Bharani is Venus. So if you, it's to really understand this nakshatra, you might check out the symbolism video I have on Venus. And then there is a text, another Shastra, Varaha by Varaham, I'll never say his name right, Varahamihira, called the Brihad Jataka. And in that work, he discusses specifically the placement of moon in Bharani. Okay. And it can bring things like success in work, capability, truthfulness, and also being free from disease and grief. So, you know, those are some fairly nice things. Again, it's not always a walk on the park with Barney, but, you know, these are some of the nicer things associated with Barney potentially. Okay, so if we have planets or placements here in Barney, like what would that potentially indicate? Okay, well, there's a few different things. One, as I mentioned, is cycles of birth and death, either or both sides. Okay. Also, kind of like a gestation period, you know, pregnancy and birth, there's a sense of internal change and then sudden breakthrough. Okay. Now, this can also be like struggles that require self control, willpower, discipline, but also surrender, which are two different things, right? Because you can't control everything in childbirth. And it requires a lot of, you know, to do it well, it requires a lot of attention and discipline to take care of, you know, the mother and baby, that sort of thing. So, on a more sort of abstract level, it might indicate something like idealistic, moral, or social transformation. So, even something like revolutions and wars. Okay. Also, triumph over adversity. So, again, all these challenging phases of some sort of project that require devotion and self sacrifice. Okay. Such as a mother who, you know, sacrifices her time, sometimes her health, sometimes her well being, you know, even her nutrition supply, blood supply, that sort of thing, right? Because she's nourishing an extra being or maybe more than one. Um, Also, this can indicate something like growth, but with restraint. Um, you know, maybe that could even be like a pressure building, that sort of thing. Also, difficulties that we must face before we prosper. So, again, different cycles, like might even be something like darkest before it's dawn type of energy. Okay. It can be a little bit literal in terms of placements in this star. It can be something like trauma or injury, especially below the belt. Also, it can signify things like a purification of different types, like physical, spiritual, social, because again, the womb and vulva are also, you know, related to menstruation, which is a type of cleanse, monthly cleanse that women go through. And then again, once kind of baby's born, or even while mom is, you know, nurturing baby while they're still in utero, Bharani can bring energies of maternal love, nurturing food, hospitality, that sort of thing, right? Nurturing energy. And then also as people, placements in Bharani can indicate like dependents, subordinates, and people in power. So people on both sides of the nurturing, nurturer, nurtured versus nurturer, um, people or axis, right? Either somebody who's being nurtured or somebody who does the nurturing. And then I didn't really know how to, incorporate this. It's a little bit off. The rest of the, I think, development trail here, but a jealousy, especially if moon or the lugna ascendant is in the position of Bharani. Okay. Medically, Bharani can symbolize the head and the bottom part of the feet. So literally two extreme opposite sides of a person. And then as far as people and places are concerned, indications there. So people or places who are involved in creativity, arts, entertainment, film, sports, children, childbirth in all sorts of ways, hospitality, food, nutrition, slaughterhouses, which again is kind of the, less glamorous part of, carnivore, omnivorous, diets, and then also things like law, politics, and power. Okay. So, yeah, hopefully you're getting the gist here, Barney. Okay, so then we have some specific energetics related to Barney. So, as far as activity goes, it's considered to be a balanced nakshatra, meaning it's neither passive nor active. So, this relates to like active nakshatras are ones where, again, if somebody has important placements there, might be more sort of trying to, in a way, like it sounds a little funny, trying to bend the world to meet their needs and goals and that sort of thing. Where somebody who's passive is going to be much more go with the flow type. But Marani is a balance, so incorporates both or at different times, exhibits both. As far as caste, I believe it's called Mlecha caste. It's outcast. It's actually that's the outcast caste. So, and again, we're talking about like a temperament of people, not necessarily a hierarchy of people who are better or worse than each other. That's kind of a uh, more modern, but derivative of how some people interpret caste. That's not, I think, very traditional. Also, in terms of the cycle position of beginning, maintenance, and ending, Barney is considered to be a maintenance or sthiti type of energy. So, which makes sense because again, you have both beginnings and endings here, and so the composite or integration of that is maintenance. Kind of like when Yama, the god of death, either went on vacation or died himself, things became out of balance because we lost the death part of the cycle, and there's only birth, and there was like too much to accommodate to maintain balance. In terms of direction, downward, such as a baby being delivered downward from a woman's body. So this again, for those who do like muhurta or auspicious timing, this might be the kind of nakshatra you want to use if like you're trying to do things that are you want to move in a downward direction, like maybe you're digging a foundation for a home or building, that sort of thing. Okay. In terms of gender, female energy is more associated with Bharani. As far as nadi or pulse, so this gets into Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine. With placements in Bharani, you'll get more of a pitta or fiery type of energy. Okay. The nature of Bharani is kind of a fierce or severe energy, right? It's not all sunshine and unicorns, delivering a child from your own body here. This is also in Sanskrit, it's called agra. So again, the energy here is, can be quite fierce and severe, especially depending on like what planets you have here. When you get more malefic planets, you're going to get more of this kind of energy. When you get more benefic energies, you're going to get more of the nurturing and, food and that sort of thing, hospitality type energies, right? Then in terms of what they call the gunas or other qualities, Bharani is considered to be a rajasic type of energy, which is more of a active energy, also like kind of a mundane focus, like goal oriented, people who like to check things off their box and get things done in the mundane world as opposed to spiritual orientation or tamasic, which is kind of an inertia, uh, which can be like sort of a quiet or non-moving, non-active energy. Then I have a few listed here. These last three on this slide are related to matching charts with people. So the sexual type with Bharani is related to elephant. And again, I'm not getting to the details here, but for people who do chart matching, this will make sense. And then the species is human or manushya, as opposed to like a divine being or demonic being. And that's pretty intense to think about when you're like matching charts. Like, oh, would you really, human and demon or angel and demon? I guess it does exist, right? And then the tattvas or the elements here is the element of earth. So again, very grounded, right? You're literally, some people, think of it as like the spirit or soul of the baby, like chooses the parents, the mother, and sort of decides to reside and develop into something tangible in the mundane world as the fetus is developing in the mother's body. And then, whoop, out it comes one day. Okay. So, yeah, there you go. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, okay. So, on this slide, I have listed a bunch of famous Bharanis. I didn't actually get this is the second nakshatra video, specific nakshatra video I've done. I also did an Ashwini video. I didn't include this slide, but in the notes and comments of Ashwini, I included like famous Ashwinis. So anyway, it's not part of the talk or video, but I do have information like this for Ashwini, so it's there for those who are interested in that, who like to see famous charts. But let's just look at the list here. And again, I think you'll see that there's a lot of examples of how this Bharani energy is playing out. So I've listed here famous people or moments that have an ascendant in Bharani, the moon in Bharani, and then the sun in Bharani. So the ascendant, well, actually this year there was I think it was in April, there was an all-female space flight from Blue Origin that happened in 2025. And so that alone, like the fact that it's like something brand new, and this is like a commercial space flight, so it's kind of a big deal. It's not the first female space flight ever, but especially for this commercial space ship developer, it was, and specifically an all-female crew, so or passengers. So yeah, so again, Bharani, female gender energy. Also, the city of Bangkok and the country of Thailand. I did a whole video on the astrology of them based on ancient birth charts that are one birth chart for both of them. And actually, the ascendant is the nakshatra Bharani. So, again, Bangkok and Thailand do have this, reputation for being a place where people can go to enjoy different sort of sexual uh, acts and activities and things like that. So, um, yeah, again, interesting that it's right at the top of their chart. Then also somebody who has an ascendant in Bharani is George Lucas, who was the writer and director, filmmaker, basically for the whole Star Wars series. And not only does he have the ascendant in Bharani, but he has Mercury and Venus. So Venus is a creativity, and Mercury can be like words and writing. So again, he wrote the script and then directed it. So he has a lot of Bharani energy, and he basically created this whole massive world, like this movie poster here, that really engage people for generations, still engaging people. The other thing that I thought was like, sort of like a wink wink from the universe is you can actually see it in this poster up in the upper left corner, is the Death Star, which is a space station. That's also like a defensive. And I just thought, wow, I mean, that's perfect, right? Because here we are talking about star astrology and life cycles of birth and death. And he literally called this entity Death Star. I was like, basically, you could call it Barney. It's a- I was like, I mean, how perfect is that? You can't make this kind of stuff up, right? So, another ascendant in Barani is the country of Pakistan. Moon in ascendant is, or sorry, Moon in Barani is Australia. And again, that makes sense also because Australia, I believe, was originally like developed as a penal colony. And so again, that might help you remember that the caste associated with Bharani is was it Mlecha class, the outcast caste, right? So, some of the stuff can be very literal, like, like sort of shocking ways sometimes. Then we have Karl Marx, who was an author and political philosopher who was considered to be a revolutionary socialist. So he's on the list. And then, sort of contrastingly, we have Hans Christian Andersen, who was a children's author, a famous children's author. So again, you know, uh, you know, developing children and in their youth and that sort of thing. Then also Moon and Barney is Mother Teresa, and literally they gave her the name Mother because she was so nurturing to all these people who were poor and sick, and and what was it which part of India I forget, but yeah, she was essentially a philanthropist. Um, but like not just writing checks and stuff like that, but on the ground, really trying to help people live better lives. Then we have a few here. Again, these are all from my database. Sun and Barney. One person who came up was Alice Waters. She's still living. She's a famous chef, high level chef, but she also, part of the reason why she's famous is not only because she's a great chef, but she actually developed like in school, like um, farm to table type curriculum. So she's not only a chef, but she teaches, young children about food and how to grow food. So, again, all the nurturing stuff so that they can nurture themselves and others and also create like a better food system for the world. I mean, that's pretty big, right? And then Sun and Barney, we have Karl Marx again. And actually, I mean, he's a pretty hardcore guy because he has Sun, Moon, and Rahu. Pretty- And again, I've mentioned before, like Rahu is the north node of the moon. It has this kind of obsessive, compulsive energy to it, ambition as well. And then Sun in Bharani means Sun is an Aries, so it's going to be exalted there. Very strong Sun, and Sun is like a leadership planet. It also represents like king or president, some high level head of state. And he's got Moon here. So this is somebody who like obsesses about, the creation of governments and stuff like that, which is essentially who he is. Um, yeah, so I was like, wow, I'm not sure he's somebody I'd want to have dinner with. He sounds pretty tough, but I'm sure he's a pretty interesting guy, um, nonetheless, in real life, not just like sort of abstractly through his writings, like Das Kapital, I think he wrote, right? So then we have Samuel Morse, who was an inventor who developed Morse code. So again, he's somebody who invented a whole new way of communicating, over long distances. So in his own way, he created a whole new way of communicating long distances and like created a whole new world and a whole new way for people to communicate and develop relationships. I mean, this is like precursors to telephones and internet and all this kind of stuff, right? And then another famous son in Barney is William Shakespeare. So again, arts, creativity, playwright, developing characters, developing stories. And again, he's another one that, his work has survived for generations, and all these, besides his plays being read and English courses and still being, still theater productions and movie productions are being made based on his works, interpretations of his works and stuff like that. But you can see how all these different things, in one way or another, um, can be seen as strongly affiliated with the energies of Bharani. So hopefully they'll help you remember Bharani and the energies associated with this Nakshatra, lunar mansion. All right, so as always, thanks so much for stopping by, listening to one of my talks. As always, I really appreciate all your support of my work and the channel and all the different ways that you guys do that. So liking videos and subscribing and, chatting with me in the comment section and some people sending donations and you know, um, sharing videos. It's all very much appreciated. So thank you for that. I'm glad you guys enjoy the videos and you're learning. People tell me that they're learning astrology this way, so that's really great. If you'd like to learn astrology by looking at famous birth charts, I have a video titled "Birth Charts Archive List 2025." where I list most of the famous videos I've analyzed on the channel and the videos you can find them in, because they're not always one-off videos that you can tell from the title. So you can check that out. Also, I do offer individual birth chart readings, and I offer courses. I actually have a intro level Vedic astrology course that I'm teaching, where I'm mentoring people, and that is happening in January of 2026, but the deadline for that is November 14th, which is only a few days away. So, hop to it if you're interested in learning with me Vedic astrology in January. And then for either of those, you can email heartletastro@yahoo.com for more information. I do also have another YouTube channel on natural medicine where I talk about Ayurveda, traditional Indian medicine, as well as yoga, homeopathy, and naturopathic medicine. And the name of that channel is Nature Source Care, so that's out there too for you guys. All right, so as always, I hope you found this talk helpful, useful, and interesting to you as you learn to navigate the energy cycles of your own life. All right, so until the next one, take good care. Namaste.